Hey guys, I'm going to be reading aloud chapter 4, and don't bother looking at the screen because it's just going to be this the whole time, so just follow along in your book. Okay, chapter 4 Visits. Boots. Yes, that silly name just suits him. He's not a tiger, not him. He's a pussycat. Here, puss, here, Tiggy, Wiggy, Woggy, come and play pussy games with Rila. Aurelia's eyes narrowed dangerously. She was entertaining, most unwillingly, a friend, except that he wasn't. He was a stupid little boar and a maddening nuisance. His name was Marcus, and he was her 10-year-old cousin. Don't tease him, she ordered sharply as the cub showed signs of being about to investigate Marcus's wriggling fingers, pretending to be a large spider scuttling on the floor. I will tease him, and you too, said Marcus. What have you done to him? Call that a wild animal? He's about as fierce as one of your silly birds. Tweet, tweet, Bootsy, come to Pata. The cub obligingly pounced on the spider and sank his teeth into it, but carefully. He knew better by now than to bite seriously. One or two hard bites in the early days had resulted in sharp blows on the head and scoldings from his keeper. Still, even a gentle bite from a tiger cub is not nothing. Marcus let out a yell and snatched his hand out of the cub's mouth. Aurelia grinned broadly. I hope that'll teach you a lesson, you nasty little tease, she said unfeelingly as he sucked his hand. Seeing him fighting tears, she relented and went to look, taking his hand in hers and examining the indentions that were rapidly turning into bruises. Poor old you, does it hurt? He ought to be whipped, said Marcus sullenly, more humiliated than hurt. She dropped his hand. Oh, pooh, it's nothing much. He bites me all the time when we're playing. Look. She showed some little regular bruises on her forearm where Boots had been playing a bit more roughly than usual. I heard he had all his teeth taken out. Only his fangs. Ha, lost his fangs, eh? Well, how can a tiger be a tiger without fangs? Well, you're lucky. He might have bitten your hand right off and run away with it if he'd had them, retorted Aurelia, sitting down on the ground and calling the cub to her. He crawled to her on his belly and lay with his head in her lap while she petted and soothed him. His tail twitched gently. Look, she said, he's saying I love being with you. I can understand nearly everything he tells me now. Marcus watched her, full of envy. Though he would have died rather than admit it, he was a bit afraid of the tiger. He had to stop Aurelia's knowing that. Let's play circus with him, he said. No. Why not? All you ever do is kiss and pet him. That's not true. I play with him. But not real games, only silly kitten games. We should pretend he's a wild beast in the arena, pitted against a gladiator. That would be you, no doubt, said Aurelia sarcastically. Yes, it would. I know how to fight like a gladiator, with a net and trident or a sword. My father's not like yours, refusing to take you to the circus. Mine takes me quite often. Here, you lend me your sword, he said suddenly to the young keeper, who had a short sword in his belt. Julius's hand flew to it instinctively. I'm sorry, Master Marcus, but my sword never leaves me. Besides, it's sharp. You might hurt someone with it. Marcus faced him boldly. His rank was far above Julius's, that he felt unassailably superior to him. Do as you're told, he shouted, or I'll have you flogged. Julius looked over the boy's shoulder at Aurelia. Aurelia was watching, but she didn't intervene. I have to leave from the Emperor. I have no leave from the Emperor to give you my sword. It's not a plaything. The boy flushed crimson with rage. He flung himself on Julius and began trying to wrest the sword from his belt. Julius was in quandary. He held the furious boy away, but he was frightened of what the consequences might be, defying a direct order from the son of a senator, let alone manhandling him. Princess, he pleaded. Aurelia put the cup aside and stood up. She stepped up to the struggling pair and seized Marcus by the hair. One strong jerk backward and the fight was over. She flung him to the ground, then went back to her place, sat down on the marble floor, and began to stroke the cup again as if nothing had happened. You stupid, squittering girl pig, you hurt my head, Marcus shouted, sprawling. Mind your language, she said calmly. Your foul mouth will get you into trouble. That silenced him. The hint was enough. He had a bad temper, and he had been thwarted, but as he lay there he gulped when he thought how lucky it was for him that he had not said what he might have said in the heat of the moment. For example, that she was the daughter of a pig. You might say that to anybody else during a quarrel, but not to her. After a short while, he got up, rubbing the back of his head, and moved toward her. She smiled at him as a sign of truce. I don't want him to be a fighting tiger, even in fun, she said. Come on, let's play ball with him. I'll throw, and you can race him for it. You better let him win, she added with a little smile. She'd had Boots for 2 months. He had grown. He was quite a size now, but he had learned many lessons, and he was so little danger to her that the heavily armed guards that had been engaged to stand by whenever the cub came to visit had been dismissed. They were expensive. The emperor had overruled his wife after watching Aurelia and Boots at play on several occasions. The beast is quite safe. He loves her. You can see it. He wouldn't hurt her. She has tamed him with her strong will and kind hands. The empress was not so sure. Does he really love her? She asked Julius, who still accompanied the cub whenever he was at the palace. No, empress, not as we understand the word. But he knows her, and she has gentled him, that's true, and I don't think he poses any danger to her, as long as I'm here. He stressed this in part because he sensed that she was uneasy about his frequently being alone with the princess, and would have liked to dispense with his services, and Julius was quite determined she should not. But he's getting so big. Surely large male animals become dangerous as they grow. Usually, yes, but this one seems to be the exception. Out of delicacy, he forbore to tell her that Boots was no longer exactly male. A further operation had been performed on him at the emperor's command that had a distinctly calming effect. After this had taken place, there had been no visits to the palace for several days while the cub recovered. Julius told Aurelia the cub had a mild illness. Of course, Boots had no idea what had happened to him, how he had been altered, diminished. The fangs, the paw mufflers, these had been nothing compared to what had been done to him now. But apart from the swiftly fading pain and a certain lassitude which was new to him, he felt no different. He didn't know he would never sire cubs, never have the ferocity and energy that he was born to. To Julius, who had a genuine feeling for animals, it seemed a pity in a way, but he knew Boots's destiny was a happy one compared to his brother's. In thinking about this comparison, Julius became curious to see what had become of Boots's twin. One sultry afternoon on his way home from the menagerie, he went to the Colosseum and bribed his way into the cellars where the wild beasts were kept. He passed down flights of stone steps into a foul-smelling dark warren of cave-like cage-fronted compartments directly under the arena. This place fascinated and yet repelled him. Here were gathered animals that had been brought from all corners of the Roman Empire and even beyond to take part in Caesar's games and processions. There were so many creatures of such strange and wondrous shapes. Although the conditions they were kept in distressed him, Julius could never have enough of seeing them. Great bears, both brown and black, that rose threateningly on their hindquarters, leopards glaring at him with their angry yellow eyes, lions prowling their cages with hungry saliva dripping from their great jaws, hyenas, stinking, ugly little beasts not so impressive until you had seen them, working as a pack, pull a man down and rend him into fragments, and then eat the fragments. Elephants whose huge feet could crush the life out of a man, whose trunk could pick him up, raise him high, and dash him to the ground. However, it was seldom that these gentle giants lost their tempers and attacked. But the tigers were the best, the fiercest, the most fearless, the most beautiful. Julius went to the circus in the cheapest seats, close under the canopy where it was hottest, as often as he could, and watched the shows. Some of what he saw disturbed him deeply, but he never showed it or spoke of it. To do so would have been to expose himself as a weakling. Even Roman women had little squeamishness about the blood-letting in the arena. After all, that was what the circus was all about, the power of the strong over the weak, the domination of man over nature, expressed in battle and bloodshed. It was the masculine principle in action, and women responded to that. Julius puzzled himself sometimes. He could watch the gladiators and other slaves killing and being killed in fights, and cheer with the rest of the huge crowds. Why did it distress him so badly to see animals being killed? Perhaps because they were innocent, yes. However ferociously they fought, however cruelly they clawed or bit or crushed to death humans and each other, there was an innocence in it. They were doing what nature meant them to do, or what their human masters had trained them for. How could you hate them? Julius had sometimes caught himself having the strange thought that even if, the gods forbid, he were even ever in the arena and about to be mauled to death by a lion or a bear, he might, in the midst of his prayers, spare one for the beast about to tear him to pieces. When they were killed, as they frequently were, there was something shaming in it. It was pitiful. Yes, pity and shame were what he felt when they were slaughtered instead of fulfilling their destiny as killers for food and status among their own kind. Okay, I'm going to make another recording. I just stopped at the top of page 50.